Let me tell you a story about what exposure to wars has taught me. In 1982, as civilians fled Beirut's southern suburbs to hide from Israeli air raids, I rushed to a building housing the Reuters news agency to file my story to the Washington Post. I bounded up the stairs and stumbled into a crowded maze of misery. Frightened and forlorn, a hushed tapestry of men, women, and children huddled on the floor from wall to wall, back to back, head to lap, breathing heavily in that dank, dim space. It was a hot, humid, and sweltering night. I tiptoed and picked my way through a labyrinth of limbs so as not to step on a sleeping infant or an outstretched hand. The air reeked of sweat, musty mattresses, and stiflingly dense human breath. I must have wrinkled my nose as the stale stench rose to my face. A small, haggard man hugged his knees and looked at me with hollow eyes. His gaze locked onto mine. He said, "Sister, if we had soap and a place to wash, we would be clean." I did not step on anybody's arm or leg, but I stepped on his dignity. I was mortified, tormented by my offensive, inconsiderate body language. I returned the next day with boxes of soap and provisions, but the refugees were all gone. Chimamanda Adichie, once a refugee from Nigeria and now a celebrated author, says, "Nobody is ever just a refugee, a single thing. We are emotional beings with a shared desire to be valued, a desire to matter." I dedicated close to 40 years of my years as a journalist covering conflict. I did not walk away unchanged. I'm still recovering. It has been an education of the heart and mind. Deaths and calamities that upend lives and steal the future haunt me. Journalists can acknowledge the pain, listen, inhabit, describe the worlds of those without a voice by observing and reporting. I push my students to write compellingly, to give a vivid picture of what it is like to walk in the shoes of those vulnerable victims. It can help, but is often not enough. Overexposure can leave audiences and readers numb, desensitized from what is real. Nora al-Sulaiman, a Palestinian refugee I encountered in the Rafah camp in Gaza, had no house to speak of. Israelis had blown it up into a pile of rubble during the Intifada. One of her sons was dead, 4 others were in jail, as was her husband. That was her story. She was homeless and had no menfolk, but she carried a bag of rice and a small pot tied to her waist. Whenever she could, she gathered her grandchildren and cooked them a meal over a fire fed with twigs. She smiled through it all. "Why?" I asked. She said defiantly, "Aswad fi hashayi, ahmar li adayi." Black in my gut and red for my enemy. That mother courage could not suppress the impulse to give her grandchildren a sense of home. This is an impulse for life, not death. Let's walk in the shoes of those who are hungry, tired, and dispossessed. What these wandering fugitives endure can happen to us. Democracies, stability are fragile. Never forget that. During the mountain war in Lebanon, residents of my village were expelled. Those lively, colorful characters who animated the place where I spent many happy summers were now living in hovels and basements elsewhere. I lived in my parents' flat in Beirut, but I too lost a safe, carefree haven. Farmers from my village who proudly tilled the land of their forefathers to sustain themselves, now worked as janitors, housekeepers, ironing, and sweeping for others. It took 13 years to return. Many died or emigrated. But the fabric of that tranquil village life was never rewoven. That is the hole in my heart. When the Syrian conflict started, street children would ask for money, selling tissues or chewing gum. Now, they just say, "We are hungry." A gangly girl beckoned to me one afternoon as I was walking home. She cupped her fingers to her mouth to signal hunger, her face and hands black with grime. I said, "Come, let me buy you a sandwich," motioning to a nearby store. "Bring it to me," she demanded, as she squatted on a flattened cardboard on the pavement. I bristled at her brazenness. Still, I asked the short order cook to stuff a sandwich with chicken, tomatoes, and cheese as I grabbed 2 cartons of juice from the grocery fridge. The cashier, himself a displaced Syrian, told me I'll take the food out to her. He said, "That cardboard and the spot are her bed for the night. If she leaves, someone may take her place." Many children, as young as 8 years old, are too scared to go home and sleep outside. Their parents or handlers warn them not to return unless they have collected $10 or more. Who of us has not shooed away a street beggar? Instead, chase away your fears, your discomfort. The time to be brave is now. Exercise mindful compassion. Every little act of kindness, every hour volunteered counts. Collecting clothes, donating money, books, tutoring, serving hot meals, everybody wins. There is a myriad of non-governmental organizations helping the underprivileged. Do what you can. Eventually, we make the beds we sleep in. They do. Do not forget that child whose safest option is to sleep alone on a dark street on a cardboard mattress. We live in an age of well-being. Workouts, mindful eating. Fit in a bit of mindful compassion. Your safety and that of your children depend on it. Thank you.